form of the Sultan of Marami. The Sultan was a man of immense wealth, traditional values, and 3 very beautiful daughters. Binghamton, desperate to regain his standing with Comfleet, saw the Sultan's visit as his ticket back to a promotion. "I want everything 100% in order," he told his men. "We are welcoming a Sultan and 3 princesses. My cap, is on the line." Naturally, Binghamton's first move was to try and get McHale out of the way. He ordered the PT-73 out on a recon mission to Aku Aku, a deserted strip of sand with no tactical value. However, fate had other plans. The Sultan's plane developed engine trouble and was forced to ditch near the island of Samura. The only boat in the vicinity? The PT-73. McHale and his boys pulled the Sultan and his daughters from the water. Within minutes, the Sultan was charmed by McHale's easy manner, while his daughters were charmed by, well, everything else. "Wowie, wow, wow," Gruber whispered, staring at the princesses. "I heard that young man," the Sultan boomed. "The next man who dares to debase the dignity of the princesses will answer to me." "Oh, he didn't mean any harm, Your Highness," McHale said, stepping in. "In our country, wowie, wow, wow, is a traditional ceremonial greeting, like a chicken." The Sultan nodded thoughtfully. "Like a chicken? How curious." When the boat arrived at the main base, Binghamton was waiting on the pier, practically bowing into the water. "Greetings, O exalted ruler. I am Captain Wallace B. Binghamton. I trust you had a safe voyage." "Yes," the Sultan replied. "Thanks to your commander, McHale. He is a most efficient officer. I insist he joins us for dinner. Tonight." Binghamton's face twitched. "McHale? At dinner? Of course. We're very proud of him." Chapter 5. Laughing Gas and Legacies. The dinner for the Sultan was destined for disaster the moment Ensign Parker got involved. In an attempt to secure a date with one of the princesses, the crew had engaged in a series of elaborate deceptions involving stolen uniforms and fake identities. But the real trouble began when Binghamton decided to bring a fitness board against Parker. He was determined to break the ensign down to a seaman second class. "I am a regular Casey Jones when it comes to railroading, McHale," Binghamton bragged. The crew knew they had to save Parker. They needed to get Binghamton into a good mood. A really good mood. "Remember when the skipper came back from the dentist the other day?" Gruber asked the boys. He was high on that laughing gas. He would have promoted a shark to admiral. "That's it," McHale exclaimed. "Nitrous oxide. Compliments of the base dentist." The plan was simple. Pipe the gas into Binghamton's office during the fitness hearing. By the time the board arrived, the captain would be so hysterical with joy he'd cancel the charges. "Captain, on behalf of No Hard Feelings, we brought you this gift," Parker said, holding a bouquet of goldenrod. "I'm allergic to that." Binghamton snapped, but as he began to cough, the crew started spraying the shrubs outside his window. In reality, they were blasting pure laughing gas into the room. Within minutes, Binghamton's scowl began to quiver. A giggle escaped his lips, then a chortle, then a full-blown, belly-shaking roar of laughter. "Chucky-wucky," Binghamton yelled, grabbing Parker in a bear hug. "You torpedoed a garbage scowl? That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. The potato peels must have. Look just like a sub. Cancel the hearing. Promote it. Give this man a medal." Just then, Admiral Shoemaker from the fitness board arrived. He found Binghamton dancing on his desk with a nurse's cap on his head. "Binghamton, when the name of the Great White Fleet is going on," Shoemaker roared. "Quinny Winnie." Binghamton laughed, trying to tickle the Admiral. "Look at the frangipanny flies. They're spies. Everything is a riot." McHale stepped in, looking grave. He's been under a terrific strain. "Sir, hallucinations. He thinks he sees girls and flies everywhere." The Admiral shook his head. "And this is the man charging Parker with incompetence?" Parker I saw you out there during that air raid earlier, standing in the face of death, laughing. You're a hero. Parker, who had actually been paralyzed with fear during the raid, simply nodded. I try, sir. I try. Chapter 6. Sydney and the Stolen Payroll. The ultimate test of the 73 crew came when a payroll of $62,000 went missing. The money, in small, unmarked bills, had been entrusted to Ensign Parker during a conference in New Caledonia. I lost it, Skip, Parker sobbed. I saw a girl's ankle. She had a birthmark like a little brown heart, and then I was hit over the head. When I woke up, the bag was gone. Binghamton was delighted. $62,000. I've got them now. This is grand larceny. But the mystery took a bizarre turn when the crew discovered a new mascot on the boat, a friendly, 4-foot alligator they named Sydney. Sydney had a habit of bringing back gifts from the swamp. Skipper, look, Gruber yelled. Sydney's got a wallet in his mouth. It's Captain Binghamton's ID card. Did that alligator eat old Lead Bottom? Virgil asked hopefully. Unfortunately, Binghamton was very much alive. He arrived at the pier, fuming. I'm arresting the lot of you for the theft of $900 from my wallet. Sir, Sydney stole it, McHale explained. He's an alligator. He has an unhappy childhood, and he likes peanut butter. An alligator stole my wallet? Binghamton screamed. I'll see you at the court-martial. The trial was a farce. Parker acted as his own defense attorney, arguing that Sydney was a victim of circumstance. I object, sir. Parker shouted at the judge. You can't call Sydney stupid. Sticks and stones may break his bones, but names will never hurt him. Just as the judge was about to pass sentence, McHale and the boys burst into the courtroom. They weren't alone. They were hauling a very reluctant Sydney, who was clutching a canvas bag in his jaws. Exhibit for the defense, sir, McHale announced. They coaxed Sydney to open his mouth with a peanut butter sandwich. Out fell the stolen payroll, along with Binghamton's wallet. My money! Lieutenant Carpenter cried, identifying the marked bills Binghamton had used to try and trap McHale. The judge narrowed his eyes. So it was a trap, Captain? You were trying to frame your own officers. Binghamton sputtered, looking at the alligator. Sydney let out a low hiss and snapped his jaws. Why me? Binghamton moaned, collapsing into his chair. Why is it always me? Epilogue. The sun set over Teratupa. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the lagoon, the crew of the PT-73 sat on the deck of their boat, sipping on a special batch of Willie's home-brewed moonshine. You know, Skip, Parker said, looking at the distant horizon, I think Sydney really liked me. He liked your mother's peanut butter, Chuck. McHale laughed. But don't worry. As long as old Lead Bottom keeps trying to catch us, we'll always have a place here. In the distance, the faint sound of Binghamton screaming about garter belts drifted across the water. It was a familiar sound, a comforting sound. It was the sound of another day survived on the island of Teratupa. And as the pirates raised their glasses, the world seemed, if only for a moment, exactly as it should be. The end. The Teratupa Tangle. The Misadventures of McHale's Marauders. Chapter 1. The Acid of Command. The sun over the South Pacific island of Teratupa did not merely shine. It interrogated. It beat down with a relentless, humid intensity that turned starched uniforms into soggy rags and tempers into short-fused explosives. In the center of this tropical pressure cooker sat the office of Captain Wallace B. Binghamton, a man whose digestive tract was currently staging a coup against his nervous system. Garter belts. Binghamton screamed, his voice reaching a frequency that made the local seagulls reconsider their flight paths. You are the supply officer here, Carpenter. If the nurses need garter belts, you snap to it. Shake a leg. Oh, you know what I mean. Lieutenant Elroy Carpenter, a man whose primary function in life was to serve as a human